All right. Hello. My name is Kelsey Clausen, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the AANA, which is the American Association of Nurse Anesthesiology, and the ASA, which is the American Society of Anesthesiologists, and who controls the narrative. We're going to explore each organization's website and how it targets specific groups that they kind of want to get in their corner, right? So let's talk basics. Again, AANA, they're focused on advancing, supporting, and protecting nurse anesthesiology, and they've been doing so since 1931. We're going to look at anesthesiafacts.com and anesthesiafacts.com/the research. We'll look at the efficacy-driven model of anesthesia, which is a new model, which is also called EDAM, and then we'll look at research, advocacy, resources, and the basic information they provide. For the ASA, they're focused on advancing the practice and securing the future of anesthesiology. We'll look at asahq.org, made for this moment. We'll see Anesthesia 101, research, policymakers, healthcare executives, ACT model information, and advocacy. So what are we going to look at? We're going to look at anesthesia facts and research versus 1 second's count. So AANA versus ASA. We'll compare and contrast the AANA and the ASA websites in terms of how they target public, legislators/policymakers, surgeons, hospital admin, and members, sometimes members. We'll look at the formats of the site, the information presented, and the messages that they portray. Let's talk about who controlled the narrative for each targeted group and whether or not they were effective in their communication. We'll look at the value equation for stakeholders for CRNA services, and I'll give a little bit of my personal insight and some recommendations for the AANA. So let's get started. In terms of format, we're going to look at the AANA first, right? They're engaging. Their website uses different colors, different headings. They have separate bars with bolded words and areas to kind of lead you to what they want you to look at, right? They've got a take action button. It's bold. It calls your attention. And when you click on it, it leads you to brief synopsis of kind of each legislative issue, policy thing that the AANA thinks is important and what's going on. And it gives you the opportunity to click on that and sign up for or get more information about whichever one you looked at. It's reader-friendly and easy for public surgeons, members, hospital execs, and policymakers. They use, at the bottom of the page, a lot of repetition, right, for important things, which is social cognitive theory through repetition. They want to make sure that if you missed it the first time, we're seeing things over and over again, like CRNAs providing safe quality care, cost-effective care, and that they are highly educated individuals. So repetition of things to help you kind of solidify their message. They've also got the video for Future of Anesthesia Care Today, which uses peripheral persuasion through the emotional aspect of it, right? It tells you stories. It tells you, gives you like that emotional tie to it. It even says, meet a CRNA and the people who depend on her, right? Makes you kind of want to watch it. Then you can also go to social media outlets, okay? Especially YouTube, they've got a lot of information for visual learners, information about anesthesia, CRNAs, stories, things like that. Not just on the homepage, though. Their entire page is professional. They've got a great color scheme. It's a simple design, designed for simple, fast, and easy reading, which is what people want. They've got good use of infographics through one-pages, which helps with observational learning, right, and solidifying that. And then they ensure that facts and issues are short, easy to understand, and clear. For the ASA, they're engaging. Also, they use key elements of a successful website, just like the AANA does. And we didn't talk about that before, but those key elements include organization, content utility, navigation, graphical representation, and purpose and simplicity, which both sites do a really good job of doing. The ASA has a huge graphic to draw your attention right away. And in it, it says anesthesiologists are made for critical moments, right? With a huge arrow pointing up, which automatically draws your eye to it. Makes you want to look at the things that they want you to look at, which is at the top, and they've got a huge bolded thing with all of the information, right? And specific headings that are targeted to each specific group. At the bottom, much like the AANA, they use repetition again, and they've got a connection at the bottom of the page that makes it easy to look at kind of subsites, right? Again, they use repetition and the use of the cognitive theory to kind of solidify their messages there. They've also got informative information for patients about anesthesia, right, and surgery. So a lot of peripheral persuasion there. They use the emotional story aspect as well as just basic information. And again, they've got the use of visual elements and observational learning through that, right? With colors, pictures, bold words, headings, and infographics. And then the use of stories, which we already talked about with the peripheral persuasion theory. In terms of information, for the AANA, with members, they give a lot of, it's a really informative environment, right? There's a ton of advocacy promotion, stories to share among members. There's social mediated pathways with links sharing. You can download the one sheets, and they really encourage participation through their site. For policymakers, they target innovators and early adapters, right? So people who are willing to jump on new things like the EDAM, willing to take the risks that are involved with starting change. So again, things like EDAM, increased scope for CRNAs, who have been providing care for over 150 years. And then you can also look at things like the crnasafe.com if you wanted to further explore that or needed more information about how CRNAs can provide safe, top quality care. In terms of policymakers, oh, we already did that. I'm moving on early. Forgive me. So with the policymakers too, the AANA uses a lot of one sheets, right? Easy, downloadable, down dirty, quick facts, which is what policymakers want, right? They want to see what's the issue, how can you solve it, and what do we need to do, right? And then the research to back it up, which the one sheets do a great job of it. And there are a ton of them. There's ones about cost of care, scope, workplace shortages, safety and quality of care, and access to care, and elaboration and emphasizing how important it is that CRNAs are a part of this and how critical it is that we recognize that they can provide safe, quality care independently. Then they also use information with social mediated pathways for like presenting information. When they do this through links for research and advocacy, and they have things like the breaking news button, where when you click on it, it actually takes you to updates about legislation and the changes that are happening. So that's really cool. In terms of the public, they've got the CRNA Fast Facts to kind of educate the public, let them know what CRNAs do. They've got goals CRNAs have for healthcare to show how we're helping, how we want to help the public, how we want to help patients. It's easy to understand research. Again, when you click on it, there's like little blurbs that give quick synopsis of what's going on, and you can click on that if you want to go even further. They've got facts about education for the public. They've got about independent practice and how CRNAs can provide amazing care, the same care as physician anesthesiologists can, how they provide, again, safe quality care, how they're cost effective, and how CRNAs are educated. It's important for patients to know. And then there's YouTube and social media, which shares stories and allows for visual learning and peripheral persuasion to draw on that emotional side of it, help you, kind of feel like, oh, these are real stories, real people, things like that to kind of draw you in. For hospital admin, there's research in one sheets, ones about safety of CRNA care, cost effectiveness, the ERAS protocols, EDAM and its benefits, and then how that involves the 5 issues that are currently facing healthcare and how to fix them, right? So it'll increase access to care, protect and optimize patient outcomes, fill provider shortages, help with decreased opioid use in the OR, and decrease cost of care. And then they've also got a resource page that is really, really informative, and then provides a lot of information targeted toward hospital admin. For surgeons, there's information about safe quality of care provided by CRNAs that has research pages and links to back it up. Again, the one pages are really beneficial for them. There's information about CRNAs education, and then the ERAS protocols. They want to know what we're doing to help them, right? How can CRNAs help them? How can they optimize their patients before, during, and after the procedure? And then there's information about EDAM and with the research and the one page to show how, it's going to help them with effectiveness and efficiency and how we're optimizing patients. They want to know increased efficiency for them means increased money in their pocket, which, is what they want. In terms of information for the ASA, with their members, they've got their clearly stated values, right? A lot of their information is more targeted toward laggards. So people who are less down for change, more resistant to changes are the people who have been more of the this is how it's always been, so this is how it needs to continue to be, kind of aspect of it. It is an informative environment though, right? It's got a lot of updates and news to help members be up to date with things. And they again use emphasis and elaboration on physician-led care to help their members kind of get what they think is important. For policymakers, again, they target laggards, more people who are this is how it's always been, so this is how it should be. People more resistant to change, which is CRNA care. They emphasize information about physician-led care, how CRNAs are assistants. They give statistics about CRNA-led care. They often give one that is an article about outcomes and how independent CRNAs in an outpatient setting have 80% more likelihood of hospital admits after that, but then don't provide much more information. There's also just a lot of information about how physicians are safest, and the removal of physician care is unsafe for patients and for everyone involved. There's education information comparing physician, anesthesiologists, and CRNAs. They rely a lot on the fake news ideology. They present the information that benefits them in their narrative, and they neglect to look at the rest of it or present the rest of the information. They also provide information about the use of nomenclature and how CRNAs should not use nurse anesthesiologist, as it is confusing to who is providing care for the public. They use a lot of infographics and one-sheets as well, which are downloadable so that they can share their information. For the public, they've got, again, stories about physician-led care and patient well-being. They use elaboration likelihood model and Fisher's narrative in order to, kind of get their information across. The elaboration model is a good tool when motivation and the ability to grasp the concepts aren't necessarily something we know the reader has. So aka the public, right? It plays more into the emotional side of things. And when their values align with the message being portrayed, of safety and safe care, then they're more likely to retain the information. And then they also use Fisher's narrative paradigm, right? So using stories to shape the beliefs of the public. The stories appear to be completely truthful and heartfelt. And again, if they align with your values, you're a lot more likely to believe the person or trust the person who's telling you. So the ASA. So they've got things where they say the difference between life and death, which obviously the public is I would like to live. So they're going to more heavily understand that and retain that information and be oh, well, physicians are going to keep me alive, So I'm not going to lie. They do a good job of that. There's also anesthesia facts and surgery information, which is simple and easy to understand information, and then links to follow for more information. So they really truly educate the public about anesthesia in general, the types, the risks, what to expect, information about pain management, and all of this just to kind of help patients feel more comfortable with surgery. For hospital admin, they give information about cost effectiveness of physician-led care by decreasing unnecessary testing and same-day cancellations and decreasing the need for consultations. Information about improving outcomes by improving PACU times as well and turnover times, and then how physician-led care improves safety via the ACT model and protection of patients. They give information about solutions to current issues that they think there are, including staffing issues and access to care. For surgeons, they provide research about the safety of physician-led care with links to the research. There's information about CRNAs and the nomenclature, and how nurse anesthesiologist is confusing to the public. Then they've got information about cost effectiveness in the ACT model and physician-led care in terms of decreased post-anesthesia admissions, faster turnover, decreased unnecessary testing, and decreased same-day cancellations. They do not, though, provide a lot of research to back that up. When comparing the two, I found that they took really different approaches to bestow the information to their targeted audiences. The ASA provided more information about why physicians should be the only people leading anesthesia care through the ACT models and how no other model is safe. They gave out a lot of information why CRNAs are not the best option. And they didn't really have a ton of research to back up their claims. They used a lot of fear and values of wanted safety to try to gain public acceptance with their stance, but they did provide a lot of basic anesthesia information that's great for the public. The AANA information was more focused on increased scope of practice, cost-saving models other than ACT, and current issues that plague healthcare, and how we can fix them with things like EDAM. They focused overall on their target audiences and how CRNAs are highly trained, very skilled individuals who are capable of providing safe, quality care. Next up, we'll look at messages. So the messages that the AANA gives out for the public, they utilize a lot of rational world paradigm, right? So they assume that people are rational at baseline, which in today's world we know is asking a lot. But the theory of communication relies on people being able to make decisions based on logic, evidence, and reasoning, instead of playing into the complete emotional side of it. They want people to, be able to understand and make their own choices on things. So they provide fact sheets about CRNAs and in general and their education to help educate the public. They give facts and studies to solidify all of the messages that they have, including ones about safe quality care, good outcomes, increased access to care, and decreased cost of care, all which everyone, wants to happen. And then they've got the Future of Anesthesia video, which helps understand CRNA's roles. In terms of policymakers, they use a lot of encode and decode theory, as well as negotiated and oppositional code reading. So the importance of this is they want to target audiences that are able to kind of think about all sides of the narrative, right? And the issue presented. They want to stimulate the reader to have a deeper understanding of it and make their own decision based on what's presented, right? So they're doing this by stating the changes that need to happen and how they're going to accomplish that. With things like EDAM and, everything else in the one pages. So again, stating the pages, they've got the EDAM, they provide research for completeness, and then they talk about heavily about the need for the elimination of scope barriers and how eliminating them will benefit everyone involved. And then how to increase access, safe quality care, and cost effectiveness, we really do need to remove barriers and change a lot of the fundamental things that happen in the healthcare community. And then they also provide the message of the ability that CRNAs can provide top quality care in all anesthesia settings, just like physician anesthesiologists can. And again, they've got research to back that up. For hospital admin, their messages include CRNAs being able to provide equal, safe, quality patient care independently, how EDAM is key to the ever-changing institutions and fixing the major issues that they're currently being plagued with, and how EDAM is a model that changes, right? So it changes with the adaptations that are needed for whatever time we're going through. And then the message of CRNAs increasing efficiency, equity, and effectiveness within their hospitals, how supervision needs to be removed in order to reap the full benefits of CRNAs to better their institutions. And they use a lot of face-to-face media, which is the richest form of media. They do this through interactive websites, the links, and the Future of Anesthesia video. And they use this to convey their message to all the groups, not just hospital admin. For surgeons, they talk about how CRNAs are highly educated and competent providers, which is a huge message for them. The surgeons want to know that people taking care of their patients or putting them to sleep are fully trained and competent in what they do. Another message is that CRNAs truly do keep up with the ever-changing healthcare needs and are quick to adapt and learn new skills in order to provide the best care. And one of the big things is that there is no increased liability for the surgeons, right? They're not making anesthetic decisions. The anesthesia provider carries their own liability insurance and they make the choices. Thus, there's no increased risk to the surgeon. Overall, The messages are scope restrictions need to be lifted. EDAM is the newest model to adapt to the changing needs of healthcare, and it is a great model with research that CRNAs are crucial parts of healthcare teams. They provide safe, quality care, and they're highly educated APRNs who never claimed to be medical doctors. Next up, messages of the ASA. For the public, they use narrative paradigm. So they're based on good reasoning, which kind of takes into account the individual and their culture and their expectations of things. They also play a lot into rationality, which is based on how the stories they tell and the information they provide compared to the reader's own experiences, right? If it more closely aligns with their values and lived experiences, then the person's going to relate more to it and listen more to the story, which their message of that is physician-led care is the most safe care. They also use the kind of, use fear to normalize the beliefs in their message. This is called behavior intention, pretty much like this is your life, you decide what happens, and saying that physician-led care is the only safe care. They say things like medical doctors are the most highly skilled experts in anesthesia and can be the difference between life and death, which is pretty heavy, right? Especially as a public person who doesn't really necessarily know what's going on. They also heavily use agenda setting based on uncertainty that the public doesn't really know, again. So they say that CRNAs provide unsafe care when practicing independently, and they emphasize the hours that physician anesthesiologists spend in school, but omit the part of that where they spend it on simulations or office hours or other specialties. They emphasize the importance of not removing physicians from care. For policy, again, agenda setting that CRNAs provide unsafe care, that there's an important aspect of not removing physicians from care, and that top hospitals in 2021 all used ACT models, which is interesting because it's 2023. Anyway, they also give the message that physician-led care increases access to care and decreased cost. And they frequently actually use the term nurse and not nurse anesthetist or nurse anesthesiologist. And they say that nurses are not trained to make critical decisions in anesthesia, which is very confusing to the public and policymakers, actually. And then they say that nurse anesthesiologist is a misleading term and should not be used, as CRNAs have not earned that title. For hospital admin, their messages include protect your patients from CRNAs, pretty much. Keep ACT models and physician-led care. That physician anesthesiologists can help with workplace challenges and they can increase patient outcomes and patient safety, and they can help remove healthcare disparities. For surgeons, their information includes that physician-led care is safer care, that physicians prefer physician anesthesiologists over CRNAs, and that physician anesthesiologists have increased efficacy and decreased cost. Overall, they heavily use attention-getting messages and repetition with the use of elaboration and emphasizing. They use what I found interesting is they use motivational process theory, which almost like with the attention. So with the attention-getting messages, they are almost implying like incentives. So they're essentially telling the reader that physician-led care is the difference between life and death. And they do this via stories and literally just saying that to get the direct path of influence. And then the motivational process is they're saying that CRNAs provide unsafe care when working independently. So they kind of do that to deter people from getting care from anyone other than a physician anesthesiologist. And then they've also got a lot of use of dominant ideology when they say things like 1 second count, right? This forms a message that is received by the viewer and essentially like stating the superiority of physician-led care to everyone, essentially. They have a huge message that physician-led care is safest, that nomenclature is important, and CRNAs are not equipped to care for patients without supervision, and that physician-led care saves patients time and money. So who controlled the narrative? For the public, I honestly think the ASA controlled the narrative. I think that they had a lot of information that was easy to understand. They had a ton of facts for the patients. They really, really wanted them to feel comfortable about what to expect day of surgery and even after. And I think that they controlled the narrative there. For surgeons, I don't really think either controlled the narrative fantastically. I think the AANA controlled it a little bit more. They had the use of the one sheets. So fast, quick, down and dirty, research-backed facts to help surgeons understand what's going on. For policymakers, I don't think the ASA was that effective. I think the ANA was very effective. So obviously the ANA controlled that. There was a ton of advocacy opportunities. There were short synopses of the legislative issues and things that they were trying to get across. Everything was quick, easy to understand. And again, the use of one sheets was very top of the line and good for policymakers. There was also research to back everything up. For hospital admin, I think both were effective, but I think that ultimately the ANA controlled the narrative there as well. Again, their information was more set on here are the issues that are happening in healthcare and here is how we're going to fix them. And I think that that's really important for hospital admin. So value of stakeholders for CRNA services. It's pretty much a formula to assess and balance interests of contributors and parts, right? It defines and quantifies the value for each stakeholder, helps them to kind of make their own informed decisions, and makes it, so that we can try to do the best that we can to get the best value for each holder, their needs, their expectations, and their concerns. So for the public, we want to rely on increased safety and quality of care, increased access, and decreased cost of care compared to physician anesthesiologists. Hospital admin, we want cost-effective care, increased access to care, increased patient satisfaction, the EDAM model, and the possibility of upsetting physician anesthesiologists is the one risk of that. For surgeons, there's increased safety and quality of care. Again, the EDAM model, which benefits them, increase effective and efficient care. And the risk, again, is that they might lose physician anesthesiologist support. For CRNAs, which believe it or not, they are stakeholders, CRNA services increase professional fulfillment and satisfaction. There's ample amounts of advancement for your career. And when CRNA services are utilized, there's an increased market need, so increased competitive pay for everyone. For physician anesthesiologists, if they're able to accept it, then the collaboration of care model is actually a great thing for them. The teamwork helps them increase flexibility of their care. There's more hands on deck when something goes wrong if they can work in that equal care model. The issue is that they can feel threatened by CRNAs practicing and increasing their scope. And this make them feel like they have less job assurance. For insurance, CRNAs are cost-saving. Independent CRNAs increase quality of care and safety, and they increase access to care as they provide more than 80% of rural and critical access anesthesia care. Overall, balanced cost effectiveness with increased access of care, increased quality of care, and increased safety greatly outweighs any of the risks. My personal insight, I think the balance is easy and the benefits greatly outweigh the risks. The benefits for all stakeholders involve decreased cost of care, increased quality of care, increased access to care, and increased safety. The risks, you might have a loss of some physician anesthesiologist support, and some might actually leave, which can cause a temporary shortage. Patients will continue to get quality, safe care. It's actually good for CRNAs because there's going to be an increased job market and it'll be a less toxic environment because nobody wants to work with somebody who doesn't want them around, right? It's good for insurance and it's good for patients. My recommendations for the AANA, I think that they should have a little bit more patient-targeted information or just make it more accessible. I think that they should change the site to reflect the new nomenclature throughout as nurse anesthesiologist. And I think that they should have a little bit more targeted information for surgeons. I know that they do have information, but they're busy people. They don't want to go searching for things. I think that a button that says, hey, surgeons, or something like that would make them be able to go get their information, see what they need to see, and make their decision. And then I think that they should have some more member connection opportunities. I know that they do throughout the site, but having member connection opportunities is a great way to connect, share experiences and knowledge, and increase education, advocacy, and member participation, which in the end will help increase the reaches to all of the targeted groups. And then last but not least, A few of the articles don't actually go to a link. It says that the link is broken, so the reader can't actually access the full research. So just making sure that everything is working appropriately, before we put it out there. And there are my references. Thanks for bearing with me.